Chapter 441 The Hunting Plan. Mo Fan was surprised when he realized that Huang Xingli, who was always together with Ding Yuming, was absent. Ding Yuming was searching for some book. Other students rarely came up to the top floor, so it was obvious that Ding Yuming was looking for some rare magic books, too. Mo Fan hid behind the shelves after he saw her picking up a book with a blazing red cover. The girl suddenly turned around. Her eyes flickered like a surge of electricity as she spun in Mo Fan's direction and stared right into his eyes. "It's you." Ding Yuming quickly recognized Mo Fan. Everyone in the fire school knew who Mo Fan was. He had reclaimed the title of Demon King after the recent incident. "What a coincidence," Mo Fan smiled. As a matter of fact, it was Mo Fan's first time seeing Ding Yuming's face up front. She was certainly the goddess of the fire element. Leaving her soft, tender skin and adorable nose aside, her charming eyes were enough to make someone feel lost in her beauty. Perhaps it was because of the fire element, but even though she was calm as a lily, she was also emitting a charming, enchanting aura. She would be a lot more attractive when she smiled. "Are you looking for a book?" asked Ding Yuming. The fact was, she had noticed his gaze earlier. She was not too bothered by it at the start, and had only turned around when the stare lasted longer than she expected. She never thought the person would be the Demon King, Mo Fan, who was so infamous recently. Lately, she had heard his name too many times, as her classmate kept on mentioning him beside her ears. "Yeah, but I haven't spent much time at school, so I can't find what I want," said Mo Fan. "What are you looking for?" asked Ding Yuming. "Books about vampires," said Mo Fan. It seemed like Ding Yuming was a regular here, as she was quite familiar with the books just now. "I'll help you out," said Ding Yuming. Mo Fan was a little surprised. He was told that the goddess of their element was rather unapproachable, yet why was she being so kind to him during their first encounter? Could it be that she was conquered by his unique charm, under his decadent appearance? Ding Yuming was indeed familiar with the books on the floor. She soon brought back a stack of books to Mo Fan. She did not talk to him any further, quickly leaving after casting a glance at Lu Ru. Mo Fan was unable to discuss life and ambition with her in time. What a pity, he thought, as he watched her leave. After dividing the work with Lu Ru, it turned out that the books which Ding Yuming had found were exactly what Mo Fan was looking for. Many had records about the famous vampires in the past, and provided detailed descriptions of their strengths and weaknesses. The incidents in the past had proven that the vampires were not afraid of garlic, crosses, or timber. They were actually scared of holy water with strong purification ability. This holy water was definitely not a sacred item of some religion, but a liquid mixed with the light element. Frankly speaking, the vampires were darkness creatures. They were not scared of sunlight, but vulnerable to light element magic, which was extremely effective against them. Apart from that, they could only be killed with very powerful magic. Basically, it was impossible for any creature, including the undead, to come back to life after being blasted into pieces. If the light element was not available, brute force was the only way left. The books also mentioned how to entrap vampires. The strongest confining spell among all intermediate magic was the shadow element's giant shadow spike. Not only could it seal the target's movement, it could also entrap their mind. Unfortunately, vampires were experts at the shadow element, and they had no shadow. Thus, the giant shadow spike was basically useless. The other effective spells were the entrapping spells of the water, light, or lightning elements. Mo Fan had yet to achieve such a great height for his lightning element, so he had no choice but to look for help in order to deal with the vampire. Speaking of light element, Mo Fan immediately thought of Zhao Manting. His primary element was light element, and his secondary water element was also very useful against vampires. Mo Fan found Zhao Manting, who instantly agreed to help without hesitation. Before, Zhao Manting would surely have negotiated with Mo Fan for benefits, since the task was dangerous and not bringing any good to him. However, since the incident at the abandoned city, Zhao Manting had completely treated Mo Fan like a brother who stayed true to his words. Zhao Manting was furious, just like Mo Fan, determined to eliminate the vampires that were specifically preying on the girls. It was already difficult to find a good woman to begin with, as there were many monks, but not much gruel. Yet these half-human, half-beast vampires still dared to bring harm to the human world. There was no way Zhao Manting would tolerate their actions. He would surely bring them to justice. Not sure if I'm imagining it, but I kept feeling that the guy is nearby. When I take the stairs, I would see a figure in the shadow under the steps. When I raise my head, I feel like something is standing on the roof. When I walk past the trees, it feels like a pair of eyes are watching me. Lu Ru seemed terrified, and told Mo Fan this honestly. When Mo Fan went to look for Zhao Manting, Lu Ru was walking in the school on her own. She immediately told Mo Fan about her fears when he came back. The books have mentioned that nightmare is one of the vampire's abilities. They can implant it in their prey's mind, to either place their prey in fear, or force their prey to think constantly of them, said Mo Fan. Or maybe the vampire is thinking constantly of Lu Ru. It's said that the vampires are very persistent, and won't give up on their targets easily, Ling Ling added sternly. Either is possible, so we'll loosen our guard on Lu Ru, and let Zhao Manting pretend to be an admirer to protect her, Mo Fan revealed his plan. Is the guy reliable? Asked Ling Ling quickly. I can't say for sure. He's a playboy. I think the threat he poses to Lu Ru isn't any weaker than the vampire, said Mo Fan. Quote. Ling Ling was left speechless. Lu Ru had no idea what to say either, but as long as she could avenge her sister, she would give Mo Fan her full cooperation. Mo Fan moved back to his apartment. Meanwhile, Ling Ling was keeping an eye on Lu Ru with her own methods. Since Lu Ru had mentioned that the vampire might have snuck into the school to pressure her, Mo Fan and Zhao Manting had agreed to set up a trap for the vampire here at Pearl Institute's main campus. After all, Pearl Institute was a place of magicians. If the fight broke out somewhere else, it might result in the loss of innocent lives. God knew if the vampire would kill indiscriminately when he lost his cool. Chapter 442 Provocation. Time gradually passed. The second challenge week had arrived. As Mo Fan wished, he challenged someone ranked in the top 50, to earn a chance at entering the three-step tower. The duel went according to plan. Mo Fan ordered the Swift Star Wolf to suppress his opponent, while casting his 4th-tier basic spells rapidly, defeating the student ranked 48th with ease and entering the top 50. As Mo Fan thought, those ranked in the top 50 had a full set of equipment. If he weren't abusing his 3 elements, he would not be able to win the duel easily, since those ranked in the top 50 were as strong as Mu Ningzhu when he fought her during the exchange. Both Imperial College and Pearl Institute had lots of experts in the main campus. It would take years for the new students to dominate the scene. Those close to the 50th rank were already at this level, let alone the others who were ranked even higher. Either way, without getting a contracted beast, leveling up his lightning element to the 3rd level, and sorting out his equipment, it would be extremely difficult to get into top 10. Mo Fan did not continue challenging as he did not want to bite off more than he could chew. After securing the 48th rank, he would be facing stronger challengers. To preserve some strength for the fight against the vampire, Mo Fan did not want to climb too high on the ranking. As long as he had the chance to enter the 3-step tower, he was not too concerned about the other resources. More than a week had passed, but the vampire still did not show up. Even Lu Ru thought he might have given up on her, and she was experiencing the illusions because she still could not get over it. Mo Fan and Ling Ling did not lower their guard. They would not allow Lu Ru to go back to her old life before killing the vampire. Since their enemy was being patient, they would wait patiently too. Mo Fan continued to focus on his cultivation, while Zhao Manting kept an eye on Lu Ru. Even though Zhao Manting unsurprisingly broke up with his new girlfriend because of Lu Ru, it did not make any difference to him. Damn it! This vampire really knows how to stall it out. Mo Fan cursed unpleasantly as he went back to his apartment. Was that vampire brainless? If they continued to drag it out, Zhao Manting and Lu Ru's kid would have already learned how to buy soy sauce. Didn't they say the vampires would cling to their prey? Mo Fan clearly knew what kind of person Zhao Manting was. He would change his surname to Zhao if nothing were to happen after letting such a delicate girl interact with him every day. Lying on the couch, Mo Fan began to run out of patience. What if the vampire never showed up? It would not make sense for him to protect Lu Ru all the time. Oh, she didn't need his protection anymore. Zhao Manting was more diligent than him at that. Lu Ru was not as glamorous as Ding Yuming or Mu Nuzhao, but she was attractive in her unique way. Even Mo Fan, who had seen all sorts of beauties, had a fairly good first impression of her, let alone Zhao Manting, who was never picky when it came to girls. As Mo Fan was feeling agitated because he was about to lose hope of getting the reward, his phone rang. The call was from Zhao Manting. Mo Fan, something happened. Zhao Manting's voice sank. Asking for an abortion fee? Teased Mo Fan. I'm serious. Lu Ru had an accident. You and Ling Ling should come over now. Zhao Manting's voice did not seem to be joking. Mo Fan frowned. He could easily tell if his friend were joking or not. He did not overthink it. He contacted Ling Ling and rushed straight to the place Zhao Manting mentioned. It all happened very quickly. When Mo Fan assumed Lu Ru and Zhao Manting were enjoying a shameless life together, he never thought he would be seeing her as an expressionless, cold corpse. She was lying in the woods at the institute. When Mo Fan arrived, her skin was extremely pale, and her body was slightly shriveled. Apart from the same delicate face, Mo Fan found it hard to believe that this was the same brave and youthful girl who was trying to avenge her sister. Zhao Manting's coat was placed on top of Lu Ru's body. On her neck were 2 big holes, most likely the cause of her death. This time, the vampire did not try to fake her death. It felt like he had purposely left the 2 holes to ridicule the people protecting her. Mo Fan could even hear the vampire's mocking laugh mixed with the wind blowing from the woods. Sorry, I couldn't protect her. Zhao Manting lowered his head. His eyes were free of tears, yet it was easy to tell that he was in self-reproof. Similarly, Mo Fan felt a stinging on his heart when he saw Lu Ru's corpse, resulting in a chill. Yet, when he saw the holes, a great fury was ignited in his heart. Provocation. The holes were the provocation from the vampire. The vampire had used Lu Ru's life to make fun of Mo Fan's protection and plan, just to let him know that he was absolutely stupid trying to mess with a vampire who was hiding in the dark. However, Mo Fan was not furious because of the blatant provocation, but because the girl's life was treated so cheaply by the vampire. Under Lu Ru's delicate appearance was enough determination and courage that even magicians would be impressed. She had never troubled Mo Fan while she was under his protection, and would try to avoid disturbing his life. She never expressed her gratitude to Mo Fan and hid it inside her heart, yet joy would leak out from her eyes every time she saw him. At the start, Mo Fan felt pity for her, and more importantly, he was trying to complete the quest so he could afford the expensive equipment. However, he had treated Lu Ru as a friend in need, and had a true desire to free her from the vampire's nightmare. If the vampire were holding some grudge against him, he would not frown if the vampire had targeted him. However, the vampire had chosen to target Lu Ru, not to prey on her, but to use her as a warning, a provocation. It was a human life, the life of a young girl. The books had mentioned that the vampire's lineage bore similarities to humans. One could see them as humans who had contracted a strange disease. However, how could the vampire possibly be called human after what he had done? Mo Fan recalled what Huo Tuo had said to him. Why should he care if the vampires were humans or beasts, rather than what they had done? Look at what this vampire had done. Someone like him should be executed like a dirty swine. Should we notify someone high up in the Hunter Union? Said Zhao Manting. It's useless unless we have some evidence to prove that the vampire is responsible. Look at how big the holes are. They would say that she was attacked by some sharp weapons, said Mo Fan. Even Huo Tuo could not convince the Hunter Union that a vampire had committed the crime. What could they possibly do without proper evidence? Besides, the person who died was not a magician, so the case would be handed over to the police instead. What can we do? Said Zhao Manting. Tell me what happened. Mo Fan was like a volcano on the verge of exploding. No matter where the vampire was hiding, no matter what disguise he was using, Mo Fan would find him and chop him into pieces, and use him as the fertilizer for the bed of white roses in front of Lu Ru's grave. Chapter 443 A Sly Trick. When Ling Ling arrived, she used her identity as a hunter master and asked the police to seal the area while keeping a low profile. Mo Fan had told the school what happened, but the school was unable to provide any assistance, unless Mo Fan was able to find the vampire. As Mo Fan and Zhao Manting left the crime scene, a man in a black coat who had been watching them from afar uttered a hollow laugh. See that? You're of little importance. These noble magicians wouldn't shed a single tear for someone petty like you. They even handed the case to the police, not daring to notify the Hunter Union, as they were afraid of damaging their reputation since they failed to protect you, said the man, who altered the pace of his speech continuously. His coat was loose, as he was actually holding a slim girl inside it. The girl's mouth was muffled, and her body could not move because of some strange power. Her eyes were wide. She had witnessed how Mo Fan and Zhao Manting reacted when they saw her corpse, so she was not willing to believe the vampire's bullshit. She was extremely furious. Mo Fan and Zhao Manting thought she had died in the woods, since the corpse was right there. However, she was still alive, and was being held by the detestable vampire. What did Mo Fan and Zhao Manting see then? It was her sister. This vampire had stolen her sister's corpse, and was well preserved even though it had been 3 months since she died. God knows what he had in mind, to preserve her sister's corpse. Most wickedly, the vampire had used her sister's corpse to trick Mo Fan and Zhao Manting. They had tried so hard to protect her even though they were not obliged to. When she recalled their reactions after seeing her corpse, she felt the urge to fight the vampire at all costs. Just give up, they will soon forget you completely, and you'll know how fond I am of you, Nidong said with a weird chuckle. The chuckle was absolutely irritating to Lu Ru's ear, but she could not do anything. She was too weak, and could only watch it all happen. Does it feel like you're free now? You must have felt unsettled lately, to miss me so much. Isn't it a relief that you're back in my hands? Nidong continued to tease Lu Ru. Lu Ru's eyes were filled with tears, yet she was still holding on to the same persistence. You're too full of yourself. You're just like a filthy spirit that kept on disturbing me, that I didn't even bother treating seriously. How about now? Ha 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 ha. I won't allow anyone to ignore me. It's fine, we have lots of time to slowly understand one another. Oh, don't put your hope in death. For our blood tribe, death is considered a rebirth. Nidong laughed wildly. Lu Ru fell silent. She suddenly remembered the ability vampires had to transform humans into their people from the books they had found. Lu Ru had a feeling that the guy was planning to turn her into a vampire, too. Humans are too short-lived, after all. We blood tribe are always patient, as our lifespans is the same as the world. I don't mind that you hate me now, but after spending a few years, 10 years, or even hundreds of years together, you will realize that your hatred now is just a quarrel, Nidong told her patronizingly. Lu Ru was unyielding and surprisingly brave, as if the shock from her sister's death had significantly surpassed her fear. She was fairly stubborn, but if she ended up turning into the thing that she hated the most, she would definitely have a mental breakdown. The blood tribe needed new blood. Once she was turned into one of them, and sent after the 2 magicians who were protecting her, Nidong thought their expressions would be very amusing. Those who opposed the blood tribe would always find themselves to be the ones falling apart. Back at the apartment, Zhao Manting told Mo Fan everything in detail. Zhao Manting knew the capabilities of a vampire, thus, he was protecting Lu Ru the same as usual, including bringing her to his classes. To his surprise, there were 2 vampires, one lured him away, and the other kidnapped Lu Ru when he lost focus. Just to be sure, Zhao Manting ordered his attendant to wait outside of the school, so it was impossible for the vampire to transport Lu Ru out of the school, as his attendant was a strong magician. To his surprise, the vampire straight away sucked Lu Ru's blood dry in the woods. The process did not even last a few minutes. Zhao Manting quickly found her location through the tracker on her, yet all that was left was an icy corpse. Just a few minutes? Asked Mo Fan sternly. Yeah, when I saw her like that, I called you instantly, said Zhao Manting. We didn't expect there to be 2. The books mentioned that vampires who were living among humans would usually belong to a family. Being in a family did not mean they were related by blood, but they were all turned into vampires by the same powerful senior and lived in a specific area in the city. The senior would establish rules for them to follow, and teach them how to live among humans and feed themselves while protecting their territory from the invasion of other vampires. Mo Fan had found a helper, and the cunning vampire did the same, too. Things were getting more complicated. I don't understand, they could easily team up and kill me. If they were trying to murder me, I might be able to drag the fight out until my attendant arrived, said Zhao Manting. They did not target us because we are magicians. The death of a magician would immediately alert the Hunter Union and the Magic Court. They still want to keep their disguises so they can continue living in the city. Killing us would burn their own boat, said Mo Fan. I just feel sorry for Lu Ru, to see such a good girl turn into an icy corpse, said Zhao Manting with self-reproof. Icy? Asked Lingling suddenly. Yeah, her blood had dried, so her body had lost its heat. The corpse was cold as ice when I tried to feel her pulse, said Zhao Manting. What is it? Asked Mo Fan, confused at Lingling's expression. Lingling frowned as she fell into deep thought. Chapter 444 Solid Evidence. Lingling spoke after a pause. A body does get cold after the blood has dried, but I thought it's only like that because we were late getting there. It sounds like that's not the case. A body's temperature doesn't drop that fast. Maybe it's because of the vampire, said Zhao Manting. Ling Ling shook her head. She glanced at Mo Fan and spoke in a speculating manner. To be honest, I'm still confused on certain things. What things? Asked Mo Fan. Her sister Lu Xian died from excessive loss of blood. Why did the report say she died of a sudden heart attack? All the documents were there to validate her cause of death, and not one of them had any part that was suspicious, but that is exactly why it felt strange, as old Huo would never lie to us, as he had witnessed the incident himself, said Ling Ling. Mo Fan suddenly realized something halfway through her speech. We shouldn't have handed Lu Ru's corpse to the police. Mo Fan realized that he had made a mistake. But it's fine. I think the vampire has exposed himself. Ling Ling's eyes flickered, making her look wise. Still working at this time? We're all done for the day, a relatively gorgeous policewoman asked the young forensic doctor. The young doctor said with a helpless smile, a girl was found in the woods at Pearl Institute with holes in her neck. The body was sent here, so I'll have to perform an autopsy. Isn't the institute full of magicians? Why would someone commit a crime there? That sounds rather strange, mused the policewoman. Maybe the magicians are the ones committing the crime. We'll know once I finish the autopsy, the young forensic doctor smiled. After putting on a big white coat, the doctor went to a dimmed room. It had a white tone, and was filled with many forensic instruments. An autopsy table was placed at the center of the room, where a white cloth was covering a slim body. The doctor was about to close the door when the policewoman poked her head through it and asked cautiously, "Do you need my help? Maybe we can grab supper if we finish it earlier. Of course, I'm a bit hungry now." A smile surfaced on the doctor's face. The policewoman said with a nod, "Then I'll grab something for you to eat." "It's fine, just stay here." Nidong's smile turned into an eerie grin. Nidong suddenly pushed the policewoman against the wall upon finishing the sentence. The officer felt dizzy as she slammed into the wall. She was just about to struggle when cold lips pressed heavily onto her neck. She had a good impression of the young, handsome forensic doctor, and was planning to take a step forward tonight, yet she did not expect the guy would respond so roughly to her straight away. He could just do it after a meal. She did not like it rough. Suddenly, a pair of fangs reached out between the lips and poked into the policewoman's neck. Her body suddenly tensed, with her face displaying a hint of pain. The man's throat moved as blood poured into his stomach through the fangs. Nidong was greedily sucking away the woman's blood. He had only turned into a vampire quite recently. He still could not control the savage nature and lust for blood well, thus he would forget to keep an eye on his prey's condition while he was enjoying his meal. At times, he would end up sucking his prey's life dry. The senior mentioned that it was a bad habit, as it would potentially grab the attention of hunters. However, Nidong thought the senior was making a big fuss over a minor issue. With their capabilities, they could easily twist the hunters around their little finger. Why would they be afraid of the hunters? The blood tribe was a stronger species than Homo sapiens. Humans were only their toys and food, but the way his senior had taught him, it felt like people of the blood tribe were like thieves living in a little dark corner, who had no choice but to hide and conceal their identities. How ridiculous! So what if he sucked his prey's blood dry? There were millions of people living in the city. It would not make any difference if he killed a person every day. No, don't, the policewoman cried weakly. If the vampire was simply sucking the prey's blood at a crazy pace, the prey would not feel any pleasure, only an overwhelming pain. The woman's life force was drained rapidly. She never thought her bold move of asking the doctor out for supper after finally gathering her courage would turn her into a monster's supper instead. All her struggles were in vain. Finally, the blood ran dry. The policewoman's face was extremely pale, with a slight hint of blue. Her body seemed to have shriveled. The clothes on her were now loose. Nidong finally drew his lustful fangs out from the girl's neck, before licking the sweetness left on his lips. His eyes were full of disdain. Consider yourself unlucky, as I'll need a huge amount of fresh blood for a ritual tonight. If you didn't present yourself, I would simply have picked a target among the women who are on a night shift tonight, Nidong laughed. The fangs poking out from his upper lip slowly withdrew. Even though the police station had surveillance cameras in every room, including the morgue, he had already set the place up, so no one would know the policewoman had been here, or that she had somehow disappeared tonight. As a matter of fact, it was his first time preying on someone at his workplace. It turned out that he was quite self-disciplined before. Lu Xian, you are still back in my hands. Tisk tisk, a bunch of idiots, being twisted around my finger, and in the end, I still got my hands on both the sisters. Ni Dong did not bother looking at the female officer. Instead, he slowly approached the table with the corpse which was thought to be Lu Ru. Inside an alley opposite the police station, a wolf-like creature was sprinting at an incredible pace. When some obstacles popped up in front of it, it agilely passed them by running across the wall on either sides. Crap, she's dead. Ling Ling, who was riding on the swift star wolf, had her eyes fixed onto her notebook computer. Mo Fan frowned, too. He initially thought the vampire would avoid taking innocent lives to keep his disguise intact, yet he had killed again after just a short period of time. This vampire was utterly devoid of conscience. As soon as they speculated on the vampire's identity, Ling Ling immediately ran a search in the police's database and locked onto the young forensic doctor. Even though he had done something to the cameras, Ling Ling, a computer whiz, easily hacked into the system and gained access to the surveillance network. As soon as she got access, she saw the vampire attacking the female officer. The girl had died a pitiful death, but the recording had turned out to be the most solid evidence, leaving no escape for the vampire. Zhao Manting has already handed the recording to the Hunter Union, but we have to take him down as soon as possible. Otherwise, Lu Ru will be in danger. Ling Ling said to Mo Fan. Mo Fan nodded. Time was running out. He had to apprehend the loathsome vampire at once and rescue Lu Ru.